In this video, we're looking at two of the strangest real encounters ever reported in Scotland. One happened deep in the Cairngorm Mountains. The other took place at a quiet RAF base on the coast, and both leave behind the same question: what really happened? A presence, a shadow just out of sight. Not just one report, not just one era. The same unsettling story, told again and again for over a century, and always in the same place. Ben MacDhui. At 1,309 meters, it's the second highest mountain in the UK, rising from the heart of the Cairngorms, a high plateau known for some of the most extreme weather in Britain. Winds on the summit have been recorded at over 170 miles per hour. Snow can fall at any time of year. Visibility can vanish in seconds. It's one of the last places in the UK where you can truly feel alone. But some who've climbed it say they weren't. The most famous encounter happened in 1925, when Professor J. Norman Colley, a respected mountaineer and scientist, climbed Ben MacDhui alone. As he descended, he began to hear footsteps behind him. He later said, "I was returning from the cairn on the summit in a mist, when I began to think I heard something else than merely the noise of my own footsteps. Every few steps I took, I heard a crunch, then another crunch, as if someone was walking after me, but taking steps 3 or 4 times the length of my own. I said to myself, this is all nonsense. I listened and heard it again, but could see nothing in the mist. As I walked on and the eerie crunch sounded behind me, I was seized with terror and took to my heels." He stopped. The sound stopped too. There were no other climbers, no wildlife, just thick fog and the faint crunch of gravel behind him. He didn't wait to find out what it was. He fled and didn't speak of the incident for nearly 20 years. After he went public, other climbers came forward. One by one, they described the same thing: a creeping dread, a sense of being watched, footsteps in the mist, and sometimes sightings, a figure, tall, gray, silent and unmoving, just watching. It didn't follow. It didn't speak. It was simply there, and no one who saw it ever forgot how it made them feel. The figure became known as Am Fear Laeth More, the big gray man of Ben MacDhui. Skeptics point to a natural phenomenon called the Brocken specter, a large, shadowy figure created when the sun projects your shadow onto the fog. It can look massive and distorted. Eerie, yes, but harmless. But that doesn't explain the footsteps, or the feeling that so many hikers describe. And it definitely doesn't explain what happened in 1945. That year, climber and naturalist Alexander Tunian was hiking the mountain when he too felt an overwhelming sense of dread. He heard the footsteps, then saw a large, shadowy shape emerging through the mist. Unlike others, Tunian was armed. He panicked and fired his revolver. The figure vanished. No sound, no body, no trace. But he was certain of what he saw. Even now, reports continue. Hikers describe hearing slow footsteps behind them, always matching their pace. Some feel the urge to run, even when nothing is there. And then there are the rare sightings. A figure in the mist, too tall, too still. It doesn't happen every time, but when it does, the mountain feels wrong. Some believe it's just infrasound. Low-frequency vibrations caused by wind passing over peaks and ridgelines. It can trigger anxiety, disorientation, even fear. But others think Ben MacDhui is something different, a thin place, where the boundaries between our world and something else begin to blur. There's no proof, but no shortage of stories. Our second story takes us to the coast of Angus, Scotland. Today, it's quiet. Just open skies and grass-covered runways. But in the past, this place played a much bigger role. This is RAF Montrose, the first operational military airfield in Britain, opened in 1913. It trained some of the earliest military pilots and stayed active through both world wars. It even operated into the Cold War. But long after the last plane left, people still saw things. These weren't local legends or stories passed down over time. Many of the sightings were documented. They came from people who worked on the base: airmen, engineers, officers, and even civilians. They all described the same thing: a man in a World War I pilot uniform, sometimes walking the edge of the old runway, sometimes drifting through the hangars, and sometimes standing at the foot of someone's bed. One pilot refused to sleep in his barracks after watching the figure walk straight through a solid door. Many believe the ghost is Lieutenant Desmond Arthur, a 26-year-old Irish pilot from County Clare. He was one of the early aviators in the Royal Flying Corps, back when military flight was still new and incredibly dangerous. In those days, flying was done in open cockpit biplanes, with no radios, no parachutes, and very little safety. Arthur was stationed at RAF Montrose as part of flight training operations. On May 27, 1913, he took off in a BE-2 biplane for a routine training flight. Shortly after takeoff, witnesses say the aircraft suddenly broke apart mid-air. The right wing collapsed, and the plane plunged to the ground. Arthur was killed instantly. He was the first pilot to die while flying from Montrose, and one of the first fatalities in British military aviation. At the time, an official inquiry blamed him for the crash. They claimed the aircraft had been flown too hard or mishandled, but friends and fellow officers didn't agree. They said Arthur was careful, skilled, and respected. The accusations didn't make sense. Years later, a new investigation revealed that the crash was actually due to a botched repair job made before Arthur had even flown the aircraft. It had nothing to do with pilot error. By then, though, the damage had been done. That's when the sightings began, and some believe the ghost didn't appear because of the crash itself, but because Arthur's name had been unfairly dragged through the mud. They say the ghost was most active during the years his reputation was under question, and that things quieted down after he was cleared, but not completely. Reports continued over the years. In the 1970s, a civilian engineer was working alone in Hangar 2. He turned around and saw a man in full flight gear, pale and silent, just standing there. Then, the figure walked into a wall and disappeared. Others heard footsteps echoing through empty buildings. Some saw shadows that didn't match the light. Some people think it was just exhaustion, or the power of suggestion, or tricks of light and reflection. But it wasn't just a few people. And these weren't just stories. Even official RAF records mention persistent reports of an apparition in a pilot's uniform. That kind of wording is rare in military files, especially for anything paranormal. Over time, RAF Montrose became known as a place with something else. Something you didn't talk about openly, but quietly accepted if you were stationed there. Just like the Gray Man of Ben MacDhui, this wasn't about one strange moment. It was a pattern, something that never left. Some say Lieutenant Arthur is still there, still walking the perimeter, still waiting for his next flight. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you've experienced anything like this, or want to hear similar stories, let me know in the comments below.